I really don't know what to do. There's a lot of bad things that happened recently that seem connected, and I'm not comfortable going into 2023. What kicked this feeling off was the Balenciaga issue, in which the fashion company posted an advertisement of a child holding a teddy bear wearing very questionable and sexual articles of clothing. And in the background of the ad, someone snuck in a piece of paper that made a reference to a court case having to do with the issue of, let's say, child porn, and this was done intentionally. We don't know by who, but the fact that Tucker Carlson is doing a special on this and playing it to millions of people, it's like when millions of people are disgusted, rightfully so, by the weird stuff going on with children, not just in the Balenciaga ad, but with the genital mutilation that is occurring on children. How do you think people are going to react? How do you think they're going to react when, if in the next year or so, which it absolutely seems to be the case, the economy collapses? And not only are people angry and polarized and disgusted, but now desperate. I have trouble making these kinds of videos because I don't know if I need to re-explain myself every single time, but the kind of weird, disgusting stuff that is occurring is not just some fluke. It's part of a pattern. It's connected to a deeper pattern, which is the belief system of a small minority of people, although powerful minority of people. These are the academics. These are the WEF people. These are the people who subscribe to the philosophy laid out by the single most cited scholar in the history of humanity, Michel Foucault.
The central argument that was made by Foucault and postmodernists was that there is no natural essence to anything, that everything is a social construct. So the trans movement, for instance, right, that started from postmodernism. It has become the dominant way of thinking in academia. And I have to say, in my view, it is the supreme achievement of academics ever.
And aside from being a child abuser of the worst disgusting kind, Foucault believed everything was a social construct. That's why male and female are made-up categories. And if male and female are just made-up categories, well, then it turns out adult and child are also made-up categories. And then hence, you get the genital surgeries on children, and you get the Balenciaga ad. And it's disgusting. And disgust is the right word. And you have to understand that when people commit horrible acts and atrocities on each other, it's not out of fear or anger, it's out of disgust, which is a separate psychological mechanism.
It's a very strange story in many ways because Hitler was obsessed with order and cleanliness. He was a very orderly person. And he was very sensitive to disgust, because you think, well, the Nazis were afraid of the Jews, because they were other. And that's not right. What's more accurate is that if you're disgusted by something, then you want to eradicate it, right? If you're afraid of something, you want to run away from it. If you're disgusted by it, you want to burn it to the damn ground. You want to get rid of it.
That's what disgust sensitivity is. And that's the psychological mechanism active during genocide. And the reason that history repeats itself is because human psychology does not change. And so the same factors and events always cycle through.
In their seminal work, The Fourth Turning, William Strauss and Neil Howe lay out a shocking revelation. Just like the leaves change due to the seasons, so too do we. These seasons, or turnings as Howe and Strauss call them, take place over a period of about 20 to 25 years. And 4 of these turnings, like our 4 seasons, completes one big cycle, which they call a saeculum. But punctuating the end of one of these large cycles is something rather dramatic and concerning. A crisis. In the same way that a forest fire clears the way for new growth, Howe and Strauss see the crisis as an inevitable part of the cycle that enables the future to change its course. The most alarming thing about this theory, if it is correct, is that we are currently in the belly of the period in which a crisis occurs.
And we are approaching a weird part of the cycle, it seems like, going into next year. And I'm worried. And just to add to the insanity, you have Kanye West teaming up with Nick Fuentes to, galvanize the far-right anti-Semitic conspiracy theorists, the actual anti-Semites, not the people who just get labeled that way because they criticize Israel. But that's happening. Then you have this weird authoritarian stuff where European Union and Apple are threatening to, ban Twitter because Elon Musk is in charge, which basically proves the level of censorship that is needed to control the narrative. And if the narrative goes in a direction that is uncontrolled from the WEF type people, well, then what? Society falls apart. And the other just strange underlying archetypal, life is a movie or a horror movie of some kind type thing is Graham Hancock is an archaeologist who has talked about ancient civilizations and how prior to 12,000 years ago, there was an advanced civilization. Well, his documentary is out, and apparently it's relatively convincing. And given all of the nonsense we've endured in the last 3 years, clearly experts aren't to be trusted anymore. So I absolutely could give this credence if it is the case. And it's like, oh, well, we're on the verge of figuring out that we're actually the descendants of some crazy, Atlantean civilization and all that. It's just so goofy. And to be honest, with like the Kanye West and Nick Fuentes thing, for me personally, again, being in this space, making videos and talking to people who they themselves are only a few degrees away from people like Nick Fuentes, who's only 1 degree away from Kanye West, who's arguably the most influential and known person in the world. It's like, it's very strange the degree to which everything is interconnected. Us as individuals, the decisions we make, the decisions that individuals in power make. And I'm not trying to complain. And I feel like often I will come on here and complain about things, but I don't know. I'm trying to observe this weird nonsense that I'm genuinely worried for. And so I don't know. This is one of those videos. So hopefully I'll have something more substantial next time. In the meantime, good luck and Godspeed.